Stay locked to Connecting with Dave Lester Payne, right here on Observer Radio 91.1 FM.
And a very special good afternoon once again. Let's say welcome to Mr. Cameron Nathan Singh, who is with us today. How are you?
Good, doing well.
Well, I expect you to arrive in Antigua in a sunny day, but today's a rainy day.
Yeah.
We're glad that you made it here, and here's hoping all is well with you. Now, our subject today, the power of influence, so everyone can make a difference. Tell us the story.
Yeah, thank you, Dave, for having me on your radio show. I know it's been some time to get on your show. And
it's been a time. We've been trying to do this for over a year.
Over a year, yeah. So happy to be on.
Yeah.
The reason why I wanted to talk about this topic of influence, because, there's this misconception that you need to be a leader to have influence or be able to make a difference. You need to have a title. You need to have a doctor or a designation at the end of your name. But what I wanted to talk about is like every person listening and watching, and each and every person has the power of influence. It is truly up to them to, what are you going to do with the influence that you have? And it doesn't mean you need to be in a leadership position to have that influence.
Mm-hmm. So they're waiting. There's a definition here. Definition of influence.
Yeah, influence is what are you doing to, when you show up to a place, how are you carrying yourself? How are you presenting yourself? How are you communicating to others? That is really what influence is all about, is what are you projecting onto others? Is it positive? Is it negative? Is it encouraging? Is it uplifting them? Is it bringing it down? And I think we have to be really intentional about what we do with the influence that we have with the different spheres that we are involved in, because all of us have roles and responsibilities through family, our school, work, church, all different things that we're involved with. And it's up to us is, what are we going to do to make our own contribution in those different spaces? And that's what influence really is.
What do you recommend to the folks who think that they're not in leadership positions, so they're powerless?
Yeah, and I think this is something that I struggled with, is I thought that me not being in a leadership position, that I'm nobody. It wasn't until I heard from a pastor, Orrin McManus. He pastors a church out of Mosaic in Los Angeles. And he said, you have influence no matter where you are at. And that struck me, because I didn't realize that even though I was a front desk agent for the private jet FBO in San Francisco, that I have the power to have influence. And you have a voice, and you have the power to make a difference. And yeah, that might be difficult. There's maybe a lot of hesitation involved in why is it someone like me, who is 17 years old at that time, have that influence? Why? Who am I to say something? Or who am I something to add value? And that's what I struggle with, is when we talk about influence, is having that courage to have that belief in yourself that you can be someone of influence where you're at, and you're able to make that difference where you're at. And it starts with small things, like going to your boss and saying, hey, there's a better, efficient way we can do this. What are your thoughts about this? And that's what I did as a front desk agent, is I went to my boss and said, hey, I had this idea. I mean, we're doing this very manual process. Why don't we do it this way instead? And just by that, you have the power of influence.
Now, you wrote a book. The title of the book?
Navigation and Discovery.
Why?
I wrote this because I wanted to share my story of how I navigated through my high school years, my college years, and really what I was able to learn, because I had the honor of and privilege of having senior executive roles at a very young age. And I learned a lot through that journey within, I would say, about 15, 16 till about 25.
Mm.
And I learned so much, and reflecting on that, I wanted to share that story to others that you can do this too. And it's not going to be a perfect journey, because it wasn't. A lot of failures, mistakes happened along the way, a lot of screw ups.
Isn't that the way the success failures?
Yes, yeah. and
But that failure and quit, failure and try again.
Yeah, but I had the misconception coming out of college that, oh, you're just gonna continue that climb, and it's you're never gonna make a mistake. There was that pressure, right? That you're gonna continue that climb and then reach that comfortable position that you've always wanted, that senior leadership position, and everything will be all right. But the reality is, it wasn't.
So at the end of the day, the people who are listening to us and viewing us today, the message that you go, and we look at importance of understanding our own influence.
Mm-hmm.
That may be easy to say, but some folks it's very difficult for them to do.
It is. And the reality is, we all have influence in the different spheres that we have a role or responsibility in.
Mm-hmm.
As a community member, as a parent, as a sibling. And oftentimes, like, start with those roles and responsibilities where you have that influence.
Mm-hmm.
For example, if you're a parent, what am I going to do to help my kids with my experiences, the experiences that I've had? What am I going to do to influence them so that they don't make the same mistakes that I did? Or let's say, as a church member, what am I going to do to, instead of just being a person of the congregation, what can I do to help this church? What can I do to add value and make that contribution? And that's very difficult to do, because even for myself, it's stepping up and doing things to contribute and add value, such as writing a book, is very difficult. It's not an easy journey. But seeing what skill sets you have that you can provide into those different spheres, and what is it that excites you, and then go and add value and give it a try. Sometimes we're hesitant to give it a try or give it a go because we're afraid of failure. We're afraid of what are other people going to say. And that's something that I struggle with too, is with when I was in those, I would say, frontline roles, I was very afraid to step out and use the influence that I had. But where I started was the people around me, was the relationships that I was building with my coworkers. And that's where I started to steward that influence and really build those relationships. And then when you step out and help make those changes and help steward your own influence, then those people are going to rally around you. And there'll be some, though, that are going to be envious of you and try to bring you down.
There's always negative in things, right?
There's always negative, yeah. And that never ends.
We may have influence of negative, but there's positive that comes out of you being trying, because some people may say it in a positive. What motivates you to write the book, and how has the book been meeting the needs of readers? What have the feedback to you?
Yeah, so this story I didn't even share with my parents until it was read. Some of the stuff in this book they didn't even understand, or they didn't even know. But the feedback has been, I try to be as authentic as possible, because there's so many books out there, Dave. There's so many leadership books out there. Oh, the 3 steps for success, 5 steps for leadership, 10 steps you need to be a successful leader. But I'm like, I don't want to tell that story. I don't want to provide the steps. All I wanted to do is share my story.
The narrative from you may assist someone
Exactly.
Okay.
And faith always has been a huge part of that in my life. And this is the first time that I shared my faith journey. And it's been so awesome that I've been able to meet others that have that commonality in whether it's faith and aviation, in maybe being hesitant as a young emerging leader to go and try something out. And it's reciprocated very well, the story. It's a very short read, but it's been an amazing journey, just helping other young people. There's this person I meet regularly from where I'm from in Colorado, and just to see how the different things, the different nuggets that he's taken away from this book, I'm like, I never even knew I wrote that quote or sentence, but you never know. Sometimes it just takes one sentence to help transform someone's life or make a shift.
How one can get access to the book?
They can go to my website, CameronSingh.com, and digital copies are available on there, and also paperback copies as well.
Okay, but is there any, because you've been in Antigua, in and out, off and on, have you left any on the bookshelves for us?
I did last trip, and then this trip I never brought any books.
Why?
I'm working on I've just finished my second one, and so that's kind of a little bit of my first leadership roles. I talk about a little bit actually my experience in Antigua, being a leader here, and so that's
What brought you to Antigua?
What brought me to Antigua was work. I was working for a big private jet operator. They service private aircraft, and I was assigned to this location to help develop a professional on the island to take over that role.
How long ago that was?
That was 2018 to 2021. I was here.
Because that's about 2021. I heard from it was during the COVID time.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah, and I was trying to figure out if we could do something via Zoom.
Yeah.
Because it was in the height of the COVID. But your experience in Antigua and Barbuda, you keep coming back. So
I keep coming back because...
Is it business that brings you back, or...?
It's actually not. This is... One of the things I talk in my book is by the time I came to Antigua, I was aspiring to be a general manager of this company. By the time I came to this role, I forgot who I was because I did everything that I did was for work, and I didn't even know who I was at that time. And what I realized when I came to Antigua and Barbuda, I loved the people. The people here, especially the team at Signature Aviation Antigua on runway 10, they embraced me. They were so loving, and you don't experience that love in where I'm from in the U.S. Here, random people, I would go into restaurants by myself, and people would want to know who I am, and that's how I developed my own Antiguan family here. And so this is like my second home. This is where I really found myself in who I was, because I not only continued working, of course, but I was able to be in community, be in great company, that people that care about me, that people that looked after me. Everywhere I went, I knew someone. You go to the grocery store, you go to restaurants, you start knowing all these people, and you just feel like you belong part of a community. And that's what keeps me coming back here to this island, is because it feels like my second home, to be honest. And that love, the relationships I've built, there are countless people that have just done so much for me through my time here.
The power of influence, examples of influence figures throughout history. What comes to mind?
So I come from an Indian background, so I'll choose an easy one, Mahatma Gandhi.
Easy as they come.
Easy one.
Yeah.
Easy. So Mahatma Gandhi, right? He was, I would say, a nobody, right? He was a nobody, but he was so passionate about his cause. And he did what he could to stay focused on that cause. Same thing with Martin Luther King, Nelson Mandela. They were all so focused. They had their, what I call the North Star. They had their North Star and were focused on it. And they were willing to do whatever they could, even for them if it meant death. And that's what actually happened for some of them. And I think that's how we should steward our influence, is like we need to develop our North Star. Where is it that we want to go? Who is it that we want to be in the next 5 years, next 2 years, whatever that might be, or at the end of 2024, and stay focused on that, and stay focused, laser focused on that. And there's a lot of negative voices that these influential leaders that I mentioned struggled with. There's that inner voice that says, who are you to be championing this cause? But they stayed with it, and you see the change they were able to make.
not only the change, but the impact that they had on societies around the world.
Mm-hmm.
You know, not just in their neighborhood.
Mm-mm.
So, excerpts from the book. What stands out? What are some of the things that you'd like us to focus on or look at in the book? Because I know you're in book 2, but let's focus on book 1.
Yeah, book 1. I would say one thing that stands out to me is owning the room. Owning the room.
How do you do that?
Yeah, that is something that I learned over time. Is I was in meetings, in rooms, in conference rooms where I was probably the least senior person, frontline employee, person that really doesn't matter.
Everyone matters.
Everyone matters, right? Everyone matters. But that's how I felt. My voice doesn't count. But taking that leap of faith and having a voice in maybe some of the decisions that are going on around the table and saying, have you ever thought of this? Or maybe you're not on track here. Maybe you should think about this before doing that. Building that confidence in owning the room, and you're contributing to the room. Because how many times, and for those listening, how many times you're in a meeting and there's only a few people talking and not everyone's contributing. And sometimes those people that don't contribute, they have something
The
really...
ones that have the things that contribute.
The things that will change that room, could transform an organization.
But they need the courage to speak.
They need the courage and that confidence. Just say it out. Just build that confidence and say, hey, what do you think about this? And if it's received well, that's great. And that's where how owning the room begins.
Ways to harness your influence. Did the church have an impact on that? With you?
With me?
Yeah.
Ways to harness influence? Yes. Yes, it did. The church definitely did, because I look at the life of Jesus. He was all about people. And that's what it really goes back to, is valuing people. And I almost think in some senses, this is a very general statement, but sometimes that value can be lost at times, where we just don't value people. And that's where it really starts. Whether you're in work, you're on the street walking, you go into a restaurant, valuing people and making sure that they're being heard. Because also, oftentimes there are people very quick to speak and slow to listen. And sometimes you just need to take it back and just start with valuing people. And then that's what I tried to do is value, even though I was in frontline roles, is valued everyone on my team. Value them for who they are. No judgment, just value them, meet them where they're at. And I've built so many good friendships just by that one principle. And that's what influence is too. It's valuing people, and then they value you, and then you have influence on your people around the room, people around the table, because they know you value them and you make sure they are being seen.
What made you break out of the pack and decide, I want to influence people?
I had a definite North Star.
Yeah, you spoke about the North Star.
Yeah,
But how one recognize the North Star? How you do that? What do you do within you internally? Your thoughts, the things that you want to aspire to.
I think you have to stay focused on where you want to go, because so often there's other people around you that will tell, oh, you should do this, you should do that, you should go here, you should try this out, go be a police officer, whatever that might be. Is you have to start with what is going to fulfill you. What is going to fulfill you? Where are you going to be happy? And that is truly where it starts, is you have to focus on yourself. And I know this might be selfish, right? Because you might have a family to provide for, you might be a single parent, but you have to do what is best for you and stay focused on that.
Because you told me earlier that you were just focusing on, I want to be the GM, I want to get there, and everything else, you forget everything else. But then you ask yourself, what am I doing for me?
Yeah, exactly. And
But before the end, we take a commercial break.
all right.
Hey Mavis, what's the best type of internet available?
Fiber optic internet has the fastest upload and download speeds, and outperforms any other type of internet connection.
Hey Mavis, who has fiber internet in Antigua and Barbuda?
iNet.
Hey Mavis, how do I sign up for iNet Fiber?
New customers and customers upgrading from iNet's DSL service can visit inetfiber.apua.ag to apply. Existing customers can upgrade for free.
iNet Fiber /./.
Can I help you with anything else? Hello? Hello? Well, for anyone else listening, sign up or upgrade to strong, fast, unlimited, reliable internet with iNet Fiber.
Mavis, you're smart, see? Wait, I chops it a little while. Oh, yeah.
Stay locked to the 6:45 a.m. news broadcast sponsored by Sagicor General. Wise financial thinking for life.
Politics, economics, crime and violence. All these and other pressing topics that made the news will be discussed on The Big Issues every Sunday from 1 p.m. to 3 p.m. on Observer Radio 91.1 FM.
This is Observer Radio.
Stay locked to Connecting with Dave Lester Payne, right here on Observer Radio 91.1 FM.
Cameron Nathan Singh is with us, the author, and today he's focusing the power of influence and how everyone can make a difference. We simplify it, and there has to be some soul searching within yourself for you to realize that you have that power to influence, and in a positive way. Because a lot of things you can do in a negative way to influence folks. When you focus on the positive, what are some steps that you think they ought to be taken?
When you focus on the positive, I think one of the things that you mentioned earlier was, focusing on the North Star, but that can't be just work too, right? Because sometimes, and that's what happened to me. I got so laser focused on work and I lost myself in who I was. And I think you need to, where do you want to grow in your other areas, right? Whether it's your faith, whether it's your relationships, whether it's your significant other, whatever that might look like, whether it's your parent, I think you need to find different ways to grow yourself, go learn how to best communicate in your relationships and with your husband and wife, whatever that might look like. What are you going to do to better speak with your team or handle difficult conversations? That could be easy as going on YouTube, looking up a video and learning that way, because you have to grow to get better and get to that next level in all your areas, and so that you are able to understand who you are. And that's why I'm a huge champion of personal growth, is finding ways to develop yourself to get to that next level, and always having that mindset of continuous learning.
Continuous learning, that's the key. Because if you're not learning anything, how are you going to grow?
No,
and growth being as far as you yourself and the people that you have around you.
And you get very stale if you're not growing. Because I've seen so many leaders, they get into that seat, that cushion seat, and they're not growing themselves. And that is a huge reflection on their team, because if they're not growing as a leader, then their organization or team is not growing.
And the people suffers.
And the people suffer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But how do you categorize what we do here in the Caribbean, as far as your observation of us in the Caribbean as a people?
In terms of a workforce?
Well, not just so.
As a people? Yeah.
Human beings.
There's a lot of love.
Yeah, but love is not going to get you to the point where you need to get.
That's
just
true.
Love.
That's true.
Because people can abuse that love.
That's true.
And sometimes they'll think it's a sign of weakness. So we're speaking of positive, and we're speaking about influence people who, within the frame of their education, was never taught those things. So, like you said, learning, where growths come. And you mentioned that single factor, YouTube and all of those things. They're areas for you to improve. But folks find it difficult to do that. Some can't even afford to to have the devices to do those things.
Yeah, yeah. And sometimes what I realize is you need to start with the people that you are around too, learning from them. Like one of the things that I learned early on is I wasn't a huge champion of personal growth, like watching podcasts or YouTube or searching things online. It was just simply asking questions of people that were older than me. I surrounded myself with older people that have gone through it. I had a good mentor of mine. He was a CEO, former CEO. I had a mentor that was a GM. I had one that was a vice president, all different levels that were older than me because I wanted to learn from them, dissect their mindset, how they think, how they operate, ask all these questions. And I never learned anything from hanging out with people around my age. I never did. Maybe a little bit, but not as much. Not as much as those.
That's going to propel you forward in life.
Exactly, and I think that's what we need to find is your people that you're gonna soak in that information from and learn from. And all it starts with is a simple question. Say, hey, why do you do things that way? Like one of the things was one of my general managers, Kenny, he never took his laptop home. And I was like, why do you never take your laptop home? He's like, work will be there tomorrow. Work will always be there tomorrow.
It's telling you something because you lost yourself at work.
But I never thought about that until 10 years later.
That was a lesson that 10 years later.
Yeah, 10 years later.
Would have created some difficult road ahead for you. So we move on. Because our folks are listening and watching.
Yeah.
You're the one that needs to guide him through this.
Yeah. I think to all those listening and watching may think that this topic of influence is a real difficult topic to understand. I'm a nobody. You're somebody. I am just doing this mediocre job. I'll never become someone. I have to take care of my family.
That's what they're saying.
Yep, that's
to themselves.
Yep, that's what they're saying to themselves. But the reality is you have the power to make that difference. And it's not easy. It's not easy to even think about that. And it just takes small steps. Small steps. What can I do to be a better parent? What can I do to be a better employee where I am? What can I do to best be a good steward in the different roles and responsibilities that I have? And influence may be a difficult topic, but how I put it is spheres. You have different spheres of influence, and create those goals of where do you see yourself. For example, I really like this parent, even though I'm not a parent, but let's say you're a parent. What are the goals that you want to set for yourself as a parent? How do you want to be a better parent, to better raise your kids or kid, and set those goals, 1, 2, or 3 goals, and then assess how you're doing once every week. How you're doing as a parent. And I think that's a part of influence too, is you need to take some time for that self-reflection. And it could mean waking up half an hour early and just journaling, closing your eyes, or how am I doing? How am I doing in the different areas of my life? Am I going forward or am I going backwards? And there's going to be times.
But if you find yourself going backward, what do you do?
Backwards, and that's where you make that shift. When you're reflecting, you have to shift your goals and saying, okay, I need to change this week. I need to change this so that I make sure that I backslid this week. I'm going to shift it this week so that I improve on this area. And so having a pulse in those different areas that we have influence in, and making sure that we are doing whatever we can to add value and contribute in those different spaces.
What do you say to families and parents who can barely make it in today's world?
Yeah, that's...
Their final obligation is so bleak. Some folks are unemployed. What do you say to them? And not unemployed because they don't have skill sets, but just unemployed. What do you say to them?
Continue keeping the faith and don't settle. And I think this is I've seen my peers do this. They get unemployed, and they settle. Okay, I'm fine where I'm at now. I'm probably gonna never get anything for the next year or so, so I just relax and settle, go watch TV. But continue in the grind, keep going, and never give up. Never give up. No matter how many no's you get, keep going. No matter how many no's you're going to continue to get, keep going. Because I get so many no's throughout my journey. I still get no's left and right. And I continue to stay focused and keep going and keep going. And yes, it's going to be difficult. It's going to be difficult. It's going to be discouraging. After like maybe 100 no's, you get that one yes, right? And this is reality today too. And sometimes you do have to get 100 no's to get that one yes. But keep the faith, keep grinding, and keep at it, and keep working for it.
How? I'm curious right now because we're speaking, and at first I'm saying, who is this gentleman who's trying to get to? How? What guided you, or who guided you to get to speak to me? Because you're new in Antigua, but then you reached out to me. Mm-hmm. What was the forum? Who advised you to speak to me? Was it Signature?
No, I just listened to your radio station when I was here. I listened to your show. And I was on it years ago with Sherry Ann, where we talked about her company, Apex of Training and Development. And I know a lot of people listen to your show, and I really just wanted to take some time to really add value. And like I mentioned earlier, is adding value wherever I can, because, I don't need to do this, right? But I wanted to be able to make my contribution during my travels to Antigua, and pour in a little bit of this knowledge that I've attained and read and experienced, and share it with others. Is like, with influence, you can make the difference. You have the power to make a difference, because I've seen it everywhere, not just in Antiguas, where people don't believe in themselves. People limit themselves based on their circumstances or where they came from, or whether it might have been their parents. They said, you're never going to become somebody one day.
And that's getting me to it's the negative influences that can have repercussion as you're growing up in life.
Mm-hmm. And it's also that inner voice too that tells you can't do it. You're never going to do it. Wow. You're never going to become someone, but you have to continue fighting that voice.
Mm-hmm. Tell us about this book again, and where they can get a copy of the book.
Yeah, so Navigation and Discovery, A Path of Navigating and Discovering Through Your Journey of Faith. So this is a little bit of a story on my rise to leadership roles in the aviation industry. And yeah, you may not be in the aviation industry, but it's my journey of going into different leadership roles, how I navigated through frontline roles. And
what got you into navigation?
What got me into navigation? I would say
that industry.
Oh, into aviation? I grew up by San Francisco Airport. Yep. So I saw all the airplanes taken off from the airport there, and I just fell in love. I wanted to become a pilot, but then realized that was quite expensive and wasn't gonna.
So the money trip.
Yep.
What's part of that for you?
That was my dream. It was my dream to be an airline pilot, and that's actually another thing I wanted to mention is, when we developed that goal or North Star, right, and we realized, okay, this is not going to be attainable, is we have to learn how to make those shifts. And that's one of the shifts that I made, and I talk about that in this book, is I made that shift from airline pilot to now in the private jet industry. And what I loved about it was I was able to develop my customer service skills. I was a very timid person at the time. I wasn't very outspoken, but I learned how to talk to people, do sales, do customer service. And I loved it because I was meeting and interacting with people. And I realized, looking back now as a pilot, you don't really do much of that. You pretty much
You're in your cockpit.
Yeah, you go in your cockpit and you talk on the intercom, and that's pretty much it. And you don't really get the opportunity to interact.
And you get your soul safely to where they ought to go.
Exactly. Yeah. And what I loved about this side of the private jet side is you get to interact with pilots, flight attendants, and high net worth individuals.
So why you often get trips in these planes? The
No,
private jets?
no, I wish.
So you don't.
No. I took one trip a couple years ago, and to be honest, I wasn't amused. I was not amused.
Okay, I'm just curious if there's some fringe benefits that one get from hanging out, of course, at the front desk and working in these areas.
I wish.
But of course, again, I'm glad that we had the time. It's been over years now.
It has.
But finally made it here with us today. And the name of the second book?
The name of the second book is still pending. I just submitted the manuscript, but if for those that are on social media, you can look up my name, Cameron Nathan Singh, or go to CameronSingh.com and connect with me on social media there, and you can track my content. I post a lot of videos. I also have a YouTube channel for those that would like to connect, Cameron Nathan Singh, and you can find all my content there.
Well, I want to say thanks a million for being with us today. And like I said, well, you're accustomed to sunny Antigua anyway. It doesn't rain very often here.
Yeah.
So, and you keep coming and keep going. That means that you enjoy it. What church do you attend?
I'm actually part of a new church called Zeal City Church out in Loveland, Colorado. We're starting up in August. So I'm helping part of that launch team. So it's a brand new church that we're starting. So
you decide this is another way for me to influence
the
folks around us by being in a congregation that you're helping to put together.
Yeah. So I'm using my influence to try to add value and contribute in whatever I can.
Lots of success. I wish you. Nice meeting you.
Nice meeting you.
And here's hoping we'll meet again.
Thank you.
Okay. We take a quick break, and of course, when we get back, Mr. Richard Lewis is in the house.
This is Observer Radio. 91.1 FM.
Your car ain't moving if your engine
Battery Engineering Limited. We sell batteries with enviable credentials. AC Delco brand, the only choice for General Motors USA. Yuasa brand, the choice of Toyota, Nissan, Mitsubishi, Honda, Subaru, and Mazda. Designed for cars with charge control and start-stop technology. Get up to 24 months warranty. Shouldn't you use the brands that top automakers choose and not the brands they refuse? Go now to Battery Engineering Limited, Independence Drive, St. John's, Antigua. Telephone 461-1629 or WhatsApp 720-2281. We sell the brands automakers choose.
Join us on the Birthday Club every Monday to Friday from 6:30 a.m. to 6:45 a.m. Observer Radio wishes you a blessed and happy birthday.
Applying for a loan has never been so easy. Apply for an ECAB loan today with our new online loan application portal. Just 4 simple steps and you can apply for mortgages, vehicles, land, travel, and education loans online. Skip the hassle of visiting the bank and apply from the comfort of your own home or office. Visit our website at www.ecabank.com to